Hello and welcome to another Rate Your Sound audiophile oriented video. And today it's exciting because we are going to unbox a fantastic product. It's a tone arm for a turntable and it's made by Tien Audio. So Tien Audio, who were kind enough to sponsor our brand new giveaway, can you believe it? You can win a $2,500 plus turntable tonearm like this exact same model. Win it for nothing, no purchase necessary. Enter the sweepstakes, get the chance to win one of these. But let's move on. We're going to open the box, we're going to see what's inside, we're going to see how well this is made, we are going to understand exactly why it's so expensive. By the way, you can spend £5, £8, £10, £12,000 on a tonearm. So part of Tien Audio's proposition is that they can provide you with £10,000 worth of dollars, for only $2,500. So they're making equivalent quality, equivalent audiophile quality products for really much less money. It's still expensive. This is still for specialists. This is still for people who care a great deal about their audio, their vinyl in particular. Vinyl, which has seen a huge resurgence in the last few years. Repressings of great vinyl albums have been redone by most of the major labels. They've been repressed, audiophile weight discs, audiophile quality pressings. Not like in the old days where they used to manufacture billions of these vinyls every year, and the quality was often suspect, especially with the 7-inch singles. The pressings of those, the quality wasn't so great. Some companies cared a great deal, like companies like Capitol in the US, companies like Deutsche Grammophon in Germany, companies like Decca and EMI in England. And so anyway, people who care about vinyl albums know where to get good vinyl. They know what a good vinyl is and sounds like, and of course that's just the recording. To reproduce that recording as it was meant to be reproduced, you need a high quality turntable, you need a high quality tonearm, which is where a product like this comes in. You need a high quality preamp to amplify the signal that's come from the tonearm. You need a high quality power amp to amplify the preamp signal. You need high quality speakers. So the whole audio signal path, the whole chain from end to end is high quality. Now, an important part of that is the bit that sits on the record, the needle that sits on the record, or a cartridge as audiophiles call them, sits on the record, and the fine balance of that. So imagine this, the top of the box is the platter or the turntable, and I put my vinyl record on top of that, and this is the tonearm with the cartridge at this end. It would be just gently resting kind of parallel, tracking that groove, because there's one spiral groove on a vinyl record, and you want that tonearm to be perfectly aligned with that groove the whole journey that it travels across that vinyl record. So it picks up the signal and tracks in the groove beautifully well. And that's what products like the Tien Audio Viroa tonearm is meant to do. So that's a long preamble. Let's take a look in the box and see what you actually get for your $2,500. Or if you win the sweepstakes by clicking the link below, see what you get. There's a lovely picture of it on here as it would be in situ. So I have to do this very carefully, obviously, because it's a delicate piece, especially the wand. That's pretty delicate. So the first thing in the inner box there is the picture diagram of the various parts of this, because this is a DIY kit, right? This isn't something that just works. It needs to be set up properly. You need to measure things, you need to tighten things, loosen things. This is a proper DIY kit. Or if you don't have experience of setting up tone arms, we recommend that you get your audio dealer to do it, because if you don't know what you're doing, it's a bit like cars, you know, you could make a mess of this, and your vinyl records could be worse off if you set this up incorrectly. So it's a bit specialist. However, every audiophile would have an expensive tonearm to go with their expensive turntable. So, you know, people want these and use these things, but not everybody can set them up. So go to a specialist. Would you challenge yourself by doing the plumbing in your own house yourself? Maybe not. Get a specialist to do it. So this is similar. Right, so we have the tonearm. There's the cartridge that I was talking about. There's the tonearm wands, very lightweight. In this case, it's carbon fiber, extremely lightweight. There's a lifting arm, which is part of what's in the box here, that just lifts that tonearm very slightly off the record, so you can move it out the way. You can rest it in the armrest, lock it out the way, and then change the side, turn it over for the young people who have just got into vinyl records, or perhaps the young people know what they are now because they're fashionable again. I think it's the generation in the middle that only knows what CDs are, or only knows what MP3s are. Young people getting right back into their vinyl. They love the nostalgia of it. So we've got the weight system and the counterbalance system at the end of on the other side of that pivot mechanism. Then there's the main shaft here, and then there's the, what do they call it, the built-in sapphire bearing. So there's a sapphire bearing and a magnetic dynamic anti-skating system here. It's very finely balanced and designed not to skate over the vinyl, because if it's too light, then it will skip out of the groove and skate around. But we want it to sit gently but firmly in the groove. That's the diamond on the cartridge I'm talking about, or whatever precious thing they're using. Not all of them are diamonds, but that needs to sit in the groove absolutely perfectly and track across the vinyl record according to the position where you're at in the groove, at the beginning of the record or at the end of the record. And at no point does that cartridge need to be slightly off center. It needs to be perfectly smooth. So you have anti-skating and a tracking system within this. So you've got your locking nuts, because this needs to be bolted down to a turntable, and then there's the copper outputs, RCA outputs, because there's a very tiny little signal that comes from your cartridge through the wires here, and then RCA outputs, very tiny audio signal, and then that would go to your audio preamp, of course. Most of you, I'm sure, already know this. Right, have a look what we've got. We've got some nice sturdy solid foam packaging that's compartmentalized with the different pieces. So if you can see that, there's a lovely screwdriver there. There's a few components in there, we'll get them out, a few there. There's the tonearm, there's the gimbal and bearing mechanism with the main shaft, and a couple of counterweights. So let's see what we've got. I'll gently prise them out with this pointer. So there is one of the weights, and there's another counterweight which is bigger, I believe. Let's carefully prise it out, although it's pretty solid, this, to be honest. It's just a little tricky to get out the box, because these are you know, well placed inside these boxes. They're designed not to move in transit, so that's a little bit solid in there. If I put it end to end, you'll see that's double the size, and there's a little grub screw right there, but we'll look in more detail at these. So the grub screw would tighten it onto the shaft of the tonearm. Let's take the tonearm itself out, because that's the main thing that we're interested in, and this delicate thing, beautifully made delicate thing, carbon fibre wand there. We've got our connectors right here that plug into the cartridge. The other end of these cables with your audio signal, and then your shaft there that the counterweights go onto. So I'm not going to set this up, right? That's too involved for this video, and I'm not an audio dealer. I'm a hobbyist, and I'm not qualified really to show you how to set these things up. This is the shaft system and the counterweight and the lifting mechanism, everything that's on there. That won't stand up by itself because it needs to be bolted onto a turntable. So I'd hold it with my finger like that. So that goes like that. Then there's the tone arm which goes on top of there, and you've got the lifting mechanism. I'm not going to do that right now. So there's your RCA outputs that we were talking about that would go to your preamp. There's the lifting mechanism. The arm goes there. All these very fine little grub screws and so on. All these bits and pieces that are necessary to get this thing to work. There's a template system here for setting up the cartridge as well. You've got millimeter measurements, and there's a template that fits over that, so you can adjust the length correctly for the tracking of the cartridge. And there's a little little jig, as we would call it, which you can use to correctly set up the angles and the length of your cartridge when you fit it onto the end. What else have we got there? We've got a earth cable. So yeah, there's an earth point there, and then you would connect the other end of this earth cable to your turntable. Make sure everything's earthed. There's another alternative counterbalance. So another shaft, longer shaft, if you need a longer shaft for your counterbalance weights for that. There's a quality screwdriver here, which is just a nice touch, isn't it, to add into there. That is a good one. We've got some little hex keys. So 3 different sizes for the various grub screw sizes that we have to adjust the various things that we have on there. And that is the lifting arm, which screws into that lifting mechanism. Okay, box is empty, and you can keep the box, because if you ever fit something on your tonearm, this tonearm onto a turntable, and you want to move the turntable, you're probably better off taking the tonearm off, or if you move house or something, or even move it to a different room and you're setting up again from the living room to the den or something, you might want to take the tonearm off and repack it in here because it's safe, rather than you know, just kind of picking up your turntable and moving it. It might be a lot more secure thing to do is to take off at least some of the components, like the tonearm, and then repack them in the box. So we've got the template and the jig for setting up the cartridge when it goes on the end here, and there's some little posts for helping set that up, and there's a whole arrangement and mechanism there. And the tone arm itself has a little angled bracket for the cartridge to be mounted on, and this little piece says 22.92 degrees, so that's obviously the optimum angle for setting it up in a certain context. Right, little Allen keys, as we call them in England. They're hex drivers, as you know them. There's the lifter, the gimbal, or the shaft mechanism, as I like to call it. There's the connectors on the top there for this. So this is your very tiny audio signal that's coming from your cartridge. That will plug into there, and then the audio signal fed out to your phonos preamps.